Nobody cares about these children. And their life, therefore, becomes a life of being trafficked, going into prisons. And that's the result of their lives. And does anybody care?
With NASHI, we've decided that it's better to do something than to do nothing.
Even if we could impact one person, make a difference in one boy or girl's life, then we've made a difference.
A lone stork stands guard over the tiny Ukrainian village of Stoyanov, a harbinger of hope. A grueling 2-hour drive outside the city of Lviv, the old ways have yet to give way to the 21st century. It's a hard life. Back-breaking work. And for the children, the future is particularly bleak.
The situation is really very, very desperate for children, especially those coming out of the orphanages and who have grown up in the orphanages. Those children really have no chance, no future, nobody to look after them.
Throughout Ukraine, tens of thousands of children languish in orphanages. But for some, there will be hope. Thanks to a dream. A safe house being built by Savelia Perniski.
We call this center the Klinowy List, which is the Maple Leaf Project.
Why a maple leaf? This project has its roots half a world away in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, where Savelia and the volunteers with her organization called NASHI decided to do something and are working hard to change the lives of Ukrainian orphans, one pierogi at a time.
NASHI, translated into English, would mean our, and we've really taken it on in terms of our responsibility and our commitment to our children.
To describe Savelia, without her vision, we would not be here. That's always, her and I founded it, but she's been the visionary.
When I had been in Ukraine and came, as I would say, face to face with human trafficking and went back home to Canada, I went to a lecture up in Edmonton on human trafficking that dealt specifically with the area of Europe.
We came together, almost like kindred spirits, and so to speak, that we knew that there was a problem, and what can we do to address it. We went to a conference, and at the end of that conference, we decided that there's something can be done. We didn't quite know what could be done. However, driving back from Edmonton, it was between Lloydminster and Maidstone, we were saying, well, we can probably do something.
And what we decided to do is rally a few friends. And so some of my friends that will always remember that phone call when I said, "Hi, this is Savelia. How would you like to come to my place and discuss something?"
I've worked with a lot of other charities and organizations, and I think the one thing that really drew me to NASHI was the sense of community that we have as volunteers. We don't have an office, we don't have any staff. Everything we've been able to accomplish started with 2 women and has just built on a team of volunteers. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter whose name is on the letterhead or who's on the board or who's got the title. At the end of the day, it's about the kids.
When did the light bulb go off and you say to yourself, I'm going to build a safe house?
Well, we didn't come to that idea till a couple years later, until we saw the needs here, till we really started investigating what were the needs in Ukraine. It's one thing to sit in Canada and say, this is what's needed. We didn't know if there were safe houses for children here. And when we came and realized there was a total void, we realized that that's what we needed to do. And we needed also to have a place where NASHI could say, this becomes our center. And from this, other areas can be touched.
So how does a group from Saskatoon fund a project of this magnitude from halfway around the globe? They knew what they needed to do.
In Saskatchewan, we love our pierogies here, and so does everybody else. And what better way to do a fundraiser than with one of everybody's favorite foods?
And so they went to work.
Why we chose to have pierogies was twofold. Our focus is on addressing the situation in Ukraine, and a lot of the people on our board are of Ukrainian ancestry, not all of them, however the majority of them.
No problem.
So we thought that this was a good way of us to partner with our membership and the people that volunteer.
Mary, how do you call a moose in Ukrainian? Moose. No.
Many of them are third and fourth generation, so they then learn the process of pinching pierogies and the process required to build the dough and the fillings and that type of thing.
But of all things, pierogies, why?
Well, I mean, because that's become a Canadian food. And nobody makes them as well as we do in Saskatoon.
One of our recipes that we use is a Mexican refried bean pierogi.
Mexican refried
Absolutely, absolutely delicious. New thing out there, fill your dough with Mexican refried beans, you boil it up, fry it up, and serve it with salsa and sour cream.
Who came up with this one?
In this one, it was Andrew that came up with it.
Nothing wrong with traditional pierogies, they're very good, but sometimes you get tired of them. So we have Mexican pierogies, we have curried chickpea pierogies, we have hot Italian sausage pierogies. Whenever Teresa had dough left over, I found something to put inside it.
From the traditional recipes to something more adventurous. What started out with 2 women and a rolling pin soon blossomed into something far more ambitious. If one pierogi can make a difference, just think what 11,000 can do. Each pierogi gets them closer to their goal.
Our thought was, we'll do a small little building, maybe just a house, and we'll just have a couple rooms in there. And I remember coming back and saying, by the way, I found this place that we could buy, and it's a little bit bigger than we thought, and it'll be a lot more money than we thought. And I wasn't sure the reaction, and the reaction is, we're going to do it. And there was no hesitation.
NASHI eventually raised enough money through the sale of pierogies to buy a building in rural Ukraine. And in the summer of 2009, a group of volunteers embarked on the adventure of their lives, captured here on this home video. Filled with excitement and anticipation, they were on the road to see firsthand their project taking shape. After a long and sometimes bumpy ride, they arrived at their destination, the village of Stoyanov.
This village was chosen, in particular, when you work in Ukraine, you have to have good partners to work with, and we found extremely good partners in Stoyanov, and we realized that everything would be done exactly how we wanted it. And along with their assistance, we knew that this was the place. We felt very, very comfortable when we arrived here, and there was also the possibility of purchasing a building, which suited our purposes.
Good people, open hearts.
All of that. And you absolutely need all of that in order to be able to do something such as this.
For those of you interested, the negotiations for the safe house took place in this building on the right.
We knew renovations were underway, But that first moment when you're driving down the street and you come around and you see the building, I think for a lot of us, there was a lot of instant tears as soon as we turned that corner, because it's one of those moments where you really get what we're doing.
For the villagers, this was a special occasion. They came out in their Sunday best to welcome the NASHI volunteers with the traditional offering of bread and salt.
Але найбільше вас чекали наші діти. Для них це, вони вже давно знають, що ви мали приїхати.
It was very, very emotional to see that village and thinking, why are these Canadians here? Oh, they're here for a photo op or something stupid like that. And no, we weren't. And when they realized that, their attitudes changed, and their attitude towards their whole town changed. It became more community-minded rather than closed.
I think it was as important for us to meet with them as it was for them to get to know us, to realize that we were serious and we weren't doing it to exploit them, that we truly do want to help. One of our volunteers was on the street and a man had called her over and she was having trouble interpreting what he was saying to her. Here was this man, probably in his 70s, basically bowing at the waist, thanking us for being there. And he talked about how the kids there are losing their own culture and what it meant for him, for us to come and show that the culture still lives, and to thank us for doing something in the community that will hopefully encourage others to continue with their work.
The challenge was to find somebody who would be the general contractor, that we knew every cent was taken care of. Everything that we raised in Canada was taken care of and nothing was disappearing anywhere. And that we are 100% know that's being done correctly.
Every cent that you raise in Canada is not lining someone's pockets.
Not a dime.
It's all about getting it done. And it doesn't matter, even the volunteers who've never been over to Ukraine, somehow they get the same sense that we do. We have a lot of volunteers that aren't Ukrainian, that have absolutely no connection to the project, to the people that we're working with. It doesn't matter to them because they're seeing themselves be a part of the solution and they can actually physically see what we're doing.
And within hours of arriving, NASHI volunteers were hard at work.
You know, we've been fundraising for a lot of years for this project. We saw the amount of money we sent over, and now we can see firsthand what's being done with this place and what's happened so far with the roofing and all the repairs and the demolition. It's money well spent. But it is very hard manual work. We're glad to do it, but I'm glad we can also leave and not have to do it full time.
This is truly an international project, and it's through the commitment of the people here in Ukraine and the commitment of the people in Canada that together we will make this work. And it will be a success, and when we open the doors, it will be a success for everyone.
I would like the safe house to be a place where, in particular, girls could feel safe and that they would be diverted from human trafficking, be it international or domestic, and that they would be given a chance just like our children in Canada are given a chance.
When the Iron Curtain collapsed and Ukraine got its independence in 1991, hope soon turned to incredible suffering. With unemployment running rampant, families were torn apart by alcohol and drug abuse, and children were being abandoned by the thousands. Babies, hundreds of them, left on the doorsteps of orphanages like this one in the city of Lviv, which houses 280 newborns and toddlers. The director took Savelia and Marianne on a tour. giving the family history of every single child in her care.
Батько був хворий на туберкульоз, помер. Сталася мама. В мами 5 дітей. Немає де жити. Діти знаходяться тимчасово у нас. Тут є і батько, і мати, але немає житла. Йому 7 місяців. Вони відвідують, не так часто відвідують, але приходять до нього. Так, оця дитинка від ВІЛ-інфікованої мами. Мама хвора на СНІД, але такі дітки, вони знаходяться під спостереженням, і тільки як буде їм 1,5 року, тоді їх знімають з обліку.
Watched to see if they develop HIV. And if so, they will be sent to a nearby facility where they will receive aggressive medical attention.
Тут важкі матеріальні умови. Мама після
One
народження
tragic story after another,
пішла на роботу.
all heartbreaking.
Баскетболом займається. Дівчинка в нас. Це глибоко недоношена дитина. Кіло при народженні. Також вроджена патологія. Тут двостороння пахова кила. Дитинка, мама одинока, яка ще й алкоголізм, в неї все кинула на призволяще, і ми ним займаємося.
But these babies are cared for by the women who work here.
It's really sad. It's extremely sad. And when you know their future is so bleak. And I guess it's one of the reasons that NASHI exists is the fact that we want to give these kids a future, so that when they continue through the orphanage system, there's some place for them to go. And that's the only hope we have.
You don't think of it when you're holding the babies. You think of it when you get home.
Some of these babies might have a chance at life if they are lucky enough to be adopted, or if their mothers come back and take them home. Just down the hall, there are babies who will never know life outside of an institution.
Добрий день. Добрий день.
They are the ones with physical and mental disabilities.
Діти інваліди. Це дитина зовсім сліпа. Цей зовсім сліпий. Мікроцефалія, ще в нього маленька голова. І це. 900-грамова, батьки, алкоголіки. Не можуть ні сидіти, ні ходити, перев'язані.
Children like Orest, whose life will consist of being shuffled from one institution to another. But the end of the line for most of these abandoned babies are what are known as internats. These children are sent here when they are 7 years of age and stay until they are 17. While there is a little music, singing, and playtime for the younger ones, life here, for the most part, is bleak. The children have little to look forward to. Their meals barely meet basic nutritional standards. Their dormitories are crowded and sparse. And what happens in the classrooms barely qualifies as education.
Children that come from the orphanages, it may be minimal that they've been provided with things. They walk into a cafeteria, food is placed on the table, they walk out. These girls don't know how to do things like boil an egg, and somebody even said boil water, and those are realities, and those are things in Canada that we cannot understand.
They also have no idea of the dangers they face out there.
Exactly. They have to understand that predators are out there waiting for them all over. And they're waiting for them to take them into different cities in Ukraine, or again through various countries throughout Europe and onto places such as Canada. Approximately 15% of the children who graduate from the orphanages, they disappear. And people ask me, well, what is the government doing? And my answer is, nobody cares about these children. Nobody is looking for them. The issue is extremely, extremely difficult. There are no social nets. There are no places for these children to go. And their life, therefore, becomes a life of being trafficked, going into prisons. And that's the result of their lives. And does anybody care? No.
For so many of the teenage girls who graduate or age out of the internats throughout Ukraine, there is extreme danger. Human traffickers waiting to lure, trick, or abduct them and force them into a life of prostitution. Like so many girls, Irena was tricked by a young man who had become her boyfriend.
Ну, ми зустрічалися з ним деякий час, він за мною гарно ухажував, дарив подарки мені, все. Ну, зустрічалися, нормально було, хорошо. Потім він запропонував мені, так як в нього бізнес свій, він запропонував мені роботу. Ми просто їхали, ну, він в один прекрасний день мені запропонував, і ми зібралися і поїхали. Ми довго їхали, ну, по дорогах зупинялися, ми там перекусити, посидіти, там кофе попити. Ну і в один момент я просто спати дуже захотіла. Ну, після того, як ми поїли в кафе, я просто захотіла дуже спати. Я лягла на машині заснути. І я заснула, а проснулася вже зовсім іншій ситуації.
Irena woke up in a basement, shackled to a bed in Barcelona, Spain.
Там був мужчина, років за 50, який мені, так як я зрозуміла, що мене продано йому за велику суму грошей.
After working as a prostitute for a few years, she was rescued. But sadly, most trafficked girls never are.
Це просто пережитий жах, якийсь страшний сон, який я пережила. Який волію забути і не хочу, стараюсь забути.
For tens of thousands of young women from Ukraine, the nightmare is far from over. They are kept virtual prisoners in brothels throughout Ukraine, Russia, and the European Union. So many of them swept off the streets after aging out of orphanages. When picked up in a police raid, they are re-victimized, arrested and charged with prostitution. Most are embarrassed, humiliated, and ashamed of what they've been forced to become.
Girls can be easily dominated. They don't have any life skills. They are promised things that they've seen on television, and they're going to go for that. They're promised that they will be given jobs outside of this country. They're promised that their boyfriends that come and they love them and are going to take them away. And all of these are luring the girls away. That's the focus. These girls have to understand that there isn't any love relationship. The relationship that they're being asked to go into is one of being a slave.
Nearly 100 kilometers outside Lviv, an unmarked road leads to an abandoned Soviet military base, where many male graduates of the orphanage system who have been recently released from prison are given a chance to learn a skill.
Воно чомусь у нас більше середину вибирають.
Igor Nat runs the commune. His goal, give these men a second chance at life.
Ще в 89-му році, коли я закінчив університет, мені вдалося попрацювати трошки на телебаченні регіональному. І я робив репортаж якраз про людей, які повертаються з ув'язнення, щоб показати, яка їхня подальша доля. Але якщо мова йшла про людей, що виходять з тюрми, і які мають сім'ю, мають батьків, рідних, вони ще мали кудись піти. А одинокі, тобто сироти, які пройшли дитячі будинки, інтернати, їм йти не було куди. І, значить, мені треба було показати їхню долю. І я робив такий репортаж, і я зрозумів, що тими людьми ніхто взагалі не займається. Тільки міліція, скажімо, була зацікавлена в тому, щоб ту людину знову відправити назад до тюрми. Через нашу комуну за тих 15 років, як вона існує, пройшло більше 2000 людей. І кожен з них мені розказував, зрозуміло, про своє життя. І я просто вже від інших вже нічого нового не чую. Це воно є як під копірку зроблено. Якщо людина є сирота, якщо він є інтернатський, чи він є одинокий, йому допомоги отримувати нема від кого. Значить, він повинен або йти під церкву, ставати з протягнутою рукою, але хто дасть здоровому хлопаці молодому якусь допомогу, або, скажімо, приходити до нас сюди. Ну, ще є один варіант, це просто йти красти. Але він знову попадає в тюрму. Тобто в нього виходить якби замкнуте коло. Але якщо він приходить до нас, тут йде розрив того кола, і він може вже нормально починати життя.
A new life with a marketable skill that will almost guarantee them a job on the outside and keep them out of prison. Skills like welding, metalwork, carpentry, and processing lumber. At the commune, the men also grow their own food and raise their own chickens, goats, and cows. When Maria aged out of the orphanage system, she had no skills, no job, and nowhere to go. She'd heard about Ihor and headed for the commune.
Ну, життя в інтернаті було дуже важко. Нас там обіжали, коли ми були малі. Нас там закривали в підвалах, так. От. Потім я, коли я вже закінчила, 9 клас, потім нас перевели вже в училище. Ми закінчили училище, нам сказали в училище, шукайте собі роботу. Ми почали шукати, нічого, нас ніхто не хотів приймати. І потім я звернулася, там була така людина, вона мені показала ту карточку, там де було написано, що об'єкт, цей об'єкт. Я потім звернулася до Ігоря Зіновича. Він мені сказав, що ти согласна їхати сюди. Він мені розказав ту історію, як тут природа, то все. Мені дуже поінтересувалося. Я приїхала сюди, мені так сподобалося тут. Потім навчилася, я ще раніше не вміла корови доїти, навчилася вже тут корови доїти, на конях кататися, гній возити, потім їсти варила людям тут. І так жила до 11 років. А потім я вже захотіла вже своє життя, то поїхала, сказала, що Ігор знає, що можна я вже буду жити, як я, що треба вже на хліб трохи на себе, поки молода ще. Бо мені 33 роки. І поїхала в Київ, і там знайшла собі роботу, і живу на квартирі. І так і приїхала сюди в гості до Ігоря Зіновича, бо я не можу забути це. Мені так сподобалося, я так привикла вже сюди.
Maria's life has been hard, but she considers herself one of the lucky ones. She managed to avoid being trafficked like so many of the girls she knew in the orphanage. It's been almost a year since Savelia and Marianne and the NASHI volunteers visited Ukraine.
Hey, we've come. No snow. And there's no snow. Oh, this is a good thing. Oh.
After the long flight from Saskatoon to Lviv, they're ready to embark on the final leg of their journey to Stoyanev. Little has changed in the village. Life still moves at a very slow pace. Aside from farmers tending their fields and their cows, not much else happens here. For Savelia and Marianne, there is a lot of anticipation. They're eager to see what progress has been made on the safe house.
Христос воскрес.
And they are not disappointed. At the construction site, a lot has happened in a year.
Look at Marianne. Look at all the changes since we've been here in the few months. I mean, we've got a floor to walk on. Wow. This is just so wonderful from what we first saw when we first came here. Now look at this. Look at the huge room here. This is so wonderful. This was a kindergarten school before, but it had been abandoned for 8 years before we purchased it. It was an extremely decrepit state, and I saw the vision of what could happen here. Even though it was in the state it was, I realized with hard work that there could be a very beautiful structure here.
You've been back and forth with the NASHI volunteers. When you see all of this finally coming together, what goes through your mind?
It's a place where children will be safe. And it is a very emotional time for us, and for me in particular, that I know people have worked so hard in Canada to see this happen, and they've worked equally hard in Ukraine to see this happen. So for me, every time I see it, it's extremely emotional for me.
It's coming together.
It's coming together. There will be approximately enough space for around 18 to 20 girls. On the main floor, we will have a cafeteria. We will have an area that's a classroom area. We'll have an office area. And then on the second floor, we'll have classrooms where the children will be taught basic life skills. And the third floor will be actual bedrooms for them. That's why we took the roof off and added the third floor, because we wanted to have bedrooms here.
Wow, what a change up here. When we were here last time, there was nothing. There was no roof on it. And actually, I never even came up here because there was no stairs. There was just this really old rickety ladder, so there was no way I was coming up here. This is like a totally dramatic change. This is an excellent room. So this is going to be the common room where there'll be some couches on either side, and there'll be a television, and it'll have a real home feel, so that it's not just bedrooms where they come up and at the end of the day they sit in their bedroom. They can actually come together. And oh, love these windows. Actually, when we were here, this rebar, they were bending it by hand outside. We were sitting on the concrete slab, and they had chalk marks out, and they were like manually bending the rebar because they have no machines and nothing is stock here. So this is really cool because I didn't get to see any of this last time. This is going to be excellent.
We will be looking at our partners here, and they're going to be assessing what the needs are going to be. So this place will hopefully be an evolving process, that it will be, as we need to change and add more courses, we can do that. But we need to first of all make sure that they will become aware of the fact that they are targets for traffickers, for predators, and they have to know how to say no to this. They have to know that this is a place that they can turn to.
Anywhere else, this building would have been torn down. But this is more than a renovation.
But we also see that this can become a model and that other organizations can come to us hopefully and say, this is how we did it, this is what needs to be done, and they can do it at different scales. And I absolutely believe that there will be other organizations who will come and do it. Whether NASHI will do it or not, let's just finish this one. Let's just get this one completed.
Back in Lviv, Marianne and Savelia meet to discuss the next phase of the Maple Leaf Project.
We need to go through checking off what of phase one has already been done.
Right.
We need to also
We need to update the whole budget and mark down what's completed and what stage everything's at.
Precisely.
So what we should actually get them to do is look at all the different potential skills training we can offer and maybe prioritize them. So things like the English language is going to be first, the life skills is going to be first, and then look into secondary and do like a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, 5-year plan.
Yeah, I think that's, that's an excellent idea. Will we be able to report all that when we go back home? Plus we have to leave here kind of that
a list of what we need them to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
While a lot of progress has been made, there is still a lot more work to be done before the safe house is complete and ready to open, hopefully in another year. But for NASHI, the work going on here is only part of the mission.
I think it's also important for us that not only have we worked at this building, but I think we've done, I would say, a good job in Canada teaching people in Canada about human trafficking, because that equally is part of our mission too, that people in Canada become aware of the issue in Ukraine and in the world, and saying that Canada is not exempt from this.
On a windswept prairie field at the Manhattan Ballroom on the outskirts of Saskatoon, NASHI volunteers are getting ready for Perogy Paradise.
Now this is a major event in Saskatoon. How many people show up?
Well, we're looking at between 450 and 500 tonight.
This table is the same size.
Of course, we're sold out, and I know there's always a waiting list for more people trying to get in.
It must be so heartening to think that this is coming together one pierogi at a time.
Well, yes, that's what's happening.
This is our 5th event of the Perogy Paradise, as it's now known to be, and we've always billed it as the largest shmorg in Canada of Ukrainian pierogies. It gets a real cross-section of people. It's diverse. We have the Babas that still come. My mother, who is 90, comes. She always is just so impressed with what we are doing. We also have the younger people that come that are university or high school students that go away knowing that there is a situation out there that is beyond their reality.
Coming from Winnipeg, and this is the first time in such an event, and I'm overwhelmed at the number of people attending this event.
Seeing what NASHI is doing in Ukraine, it's heartwarming. 1 year I'm going to go on and be there with them.
NASHI, knowing that it means ours and it's our children, I mean, just think about your children if they were in a situation like that.
I think it's important to raise awareness about these kinds of things going on. I think a lot of people know that they're happening, they try to turn a blind eye to it and kind of don't do anything about it or try to help out with it. So NASHI is raising that awareness and kind of getting the word out. It's going on and you can do something about it.
Salsa and bread. Salsa and bread. White bread's right around the corner.
Do you need bread? Do we have any more Mexican?
It brings a smile to everybody's face. And that's what it's about. The topic itself, what our issues are, is not a pleasant topic, but pierogies certainly are. It just makes people feel good when they're part of the building of them, part of setting up this event. We have an awful lot of fun at this. And the people that attend also have a lot of fun. Even though the issue is not a pleasant one, people go away with feeling good about what they're doing and feeling good about what they ate.
This is special low-calorie stuff. Highly nutritious, good for your love life.
How has all this changed you?
It changes a lot of my attitudes towards the common misconceptions we have about women and prostitutes and that whole industry. Anybody who doesn't really think about it thinks of the pretty woman type thing, and this woman chose to become a prostitute and she's making good money doing this job, and no, they're not. And that was a real eye-opener. So it changes how I perceive them and how I behave, you know, and how I pass that on to my co-workers and friends.
When you're making 11,000 pierogies, and sometimes you're up late doing things for this project, and you say, what am I doing? You stop and you say, but how lucky am I to be able to do this? How lucky I am to live in this country and to be able to do this for the children. And all of a sudden, all that hard work, it was all worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
The 5th annual Perogy Paradise raised an incredible $28,000. Every penny of it going to NASHI's Maple Leaf Project in Ukraine. Proof of the difference that a handful of volunteers can make halfway around the world.
With NASHI, we've decided that it's better to do something than to do nothing. So even though our project currently will only be able to house 15 to 20 children, that's 15 to 20 that will have a chance.
We're not going to stop organized crime. We're not going to stop all this from happening ourselves. But if we can take a couple of girls or a couple of boys who are coming out of an orphanage or homeless or whatever the situation is, give them a place to stay while they learn a trade they can use the rest of their lives, why not?
Even if we could impact one person, make a difference in one boy or girl's life, then we've made a difference. Hopefully there'll be more, but even if it's that one that, you know, that their world has changed.
Time and time again, they keep saying to us, we just can't believe that you from Canada are caring so much for our children. And we do. We just do.
Покидати жаль, жаль, бо карі очі, покидати жаль, жаль, бо карі очі. А любити не буду, бо мися не хоче, а любити не буду, бо мися не хоче. Ти не пів, я не дяк, не цілуй мене так, ти не пів, я не дяк, не цілуй мене так, нехай мене поцілує запорозький козак, нехай мене поцілує запорозький козак.